Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think today's legislative hearing is very important. It's very important to the industry that I represent. I do want to say that we are considering 4 bills that I believe could have potential harmful effects on the future of the automotive industry and would fail to help consumers truly afford the clean vehicles of the future that Detroit is building. Collectively, these bills could undo the good progress we've made on reducing harmful vehicle emissions and would stymie future automotive innovation. And these bills are clearly disconnected right now from the market reality. Right now, every major automotive company in the United States and around the globe is in a race to manufacture and ship greater and greater numbers of clean vehicles, including hybrids, battery electric vehicles, and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So, with due respect to my colleagues on the other side, I oppose each of your bills at this time, but I do share many of the concerns my Republican colleagues have raised here today. If we are to successfully make the needed transition to electrification, we have to do so in a comprehensive way and build on all the meaningful bills from last Congress, and we need to do it together. So, Mr. Goffman, I'm going to ask you to be concise because I have a lot of questions. Thank you for being here. I would like to start with the real concerns I'm hearing and that I share as it relates to the EPA's recently proposed rule on multi-pollutant emission standards for light and medium-duty vehicles beginning in model year 2027. First off, in your testimony, you say the proposed standards align with commitments already made by automakers and the U.S. states as they plan to accelerate clean vehicle technologies in the light and medium-duty fleets in the next 10 to 15 years. I'll be honest, I don't think this is consistent with what the industry or labor has committed to. So, Mr. Goffman, can you expand on what you mean and how this proposal aligns with commitments made by the automakers?
Well, thanks for that question. I'm glad to be able to address it. What I was referring to was a couple things. One, in August of 2021, 3 companies.
3 companies joined with the environmentalists and labor to a 50% goal.
That's right. And then in the fall of last year, at least one American company announced principles what they called principles to set as a goal of 100% EVs by 2035.
Goals, if the underlying foundation is there.
And that's exactly why part of the process we're engaged in now is collecting information from the companies about how these rules ultimately will interact with their business plans. We are at a technical level, Congresswoman, spending time really talking to the companies, collecting information, and making sure that what our rules do work together.
I have a lot more questions, and you know the companies have expressed their reservations
Yes.
to you. While Administrator Regan has stipulated the emissions proposal does not require a particular propulsion technology, it's clear that battery electric vehicles would need to account for 67% of new vehicle sales by 2032, up from under 6% as of last year. Mr. Goffman, can you explain how EPA measures success in terms of a nearly 10 times increase in light-duty electrification compared to new vehicle sales in 2022? Quickly, please.
Again, the way we ultimately define the success of this program is if it supports the goals that companies like, say, GM have announced
But what if they can't get there because what needs to be in place isn't there? What if people can't afford to buy the vehicles? What if the charging stations aren't there? What happens if the assumptions and forecasting that EPA relies upon aren't viable?
Well, our first line, we have 3 lines of defense to answer that. One is we've run a number of different analytic cases to see how and at what rate these emission standards could be achieved. We've asked for public comment on that. We're also getting input and information from the companies. And then, as you know, there's at least the precedent from a previous rulemaking of midterm review. Now, the companies have not raised that with us, But what they are doing is working with us.
I believe they have raised it, and they're
four-
going to be getting comments. I have 34 seconds and a
Okay.
lot more questions. I'm going to ask you for the record to talk about whether the new proposed EPA GHG rules are factoring into other fuel economy regulations. Based on my conversations I've had with industry, labor, and my own constituents, it's clear we still need additional EV charging solutions and investments if we're going to be able to assure every family in America who wants an electric vehicle can reliably access charging. I also am going to ask you to give us what analysis you did to evaluate the charging infrastructure necessary, but I have a UAW question. I would like to know more about the work EPA has done to study the impact this proposal will have on auto workers. Mr. Goffman, what are the proposed standards projected to do impact on employment? Has the EPA evaluated the impact on the union workforce that produces light and medium-duty ICE vehicles?
Mr. Goffman, I'm going to ask you to take that question for the record, and if you would get back, I'd appreciate it. The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair now recognizes